American thing that you've ever done, but it's early in the morning for you, and it's an electric type of racing that we get ready to see.
It certainly is, yeah. Won't be falling asleep anytime soon because this is fantastic racing. I've really enjoyed sort of preparing for this a little bit and watching the races last season. They were absolutely enthralling. Can't wait to see what we've got tonight because it's a new season. Lots of unknowns going into this. Lots of different things that we're not quite expecting maybe. And I'm very much looking forward to it.
We've had a big change in the dirt coming to these drivers just a couple of weeks ago, courtesy of iRacing's work on the World of Outlaws console game, and so it means that these drivers have had plenty to adapt to, and it's not just the 5 new drivers that will try and figure things out. I'm sure the veterans will have some stuff to pick up as well. Let's talk about the schedule because it's very familiar to those that joined us in 2022. We return to the same 4 venues, but we add in what I think is going to be a little interesting addition, Ewan, with the All-Star round. We'll go with Pro 2 truck, 700 horsepower, just 2-wheel drive, and to the short layout of Crandon for a non-points event. Maybe a little bit of a break in the championship action.
Yeah, maybe, and maybe a little bit of fun as well, which is exactly what we want, just to break up the season a little bit, and then we can get on with the more serious stuff in the second half of the season again. But it's a great schedule, using all of the circuits twice, of course, over the course of an 8-round schedule, and that should end up with a nice close championship. At least that's what we're hoping for. And
once again, we finish at the big house with that land rush start. We'll be 10 wide as we funnel in towards turn 5 at Crandon. Always exciting. August the 23rd, a new champion will be crowned. Let's talk about how we accumulate points, how we get to crown a champion, and what they're fighting for, because it starts in qualifying. 5 points go to pole position, and an interesting change for 2023. We line up with the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup and no longer invert the field after qualifying for the first of our main events. Indeed, we still invert them for the second main event, where 50 points are on offer once again for our winner, 100 points on total in racing action if you can be perfect to win, as the drivers fight for their share of $25,000.
Absolutely, it's a fantastic prize, and I think a good point system to do this with as well. We saw that the way it kept people so close throughout the course of last season, and there's no reason why it can't happen again this season because it's exactly the same. The only thing that's changed, I guess, is that we don't invert the qualifying order anymore going forward into race 1, but we still have the invert for race 2, which should provide a bit of distinction between the 2 races and should still bring the same action.
And so 3 awards that we will track. Our pole award, as ever, rewarding those that are quick in qualifying. And last year, only a handful of drivers were able to get to the top of the timesheets. Green flag award, driver that leads at the end of lap number 1 and is able to take advantage of potential madness. We'll give them a bit of recognition as well. And at the end of the season, at the end of every race as well, our CBR hard charger will recognize the driver that has been able to climb up the most places over the course of our events. With that said, though, that's how they build up points. They're all trying to fight and hunt to dethrone one driver, the 18-year-old Connor Barry that walked out of Crandon last year, $10,000 richer and an iRacing world champion.
What's up, guys? My name is Connor Barry, and I'm the driver of the #1 Pro 4 for Nitro Circus. I am the defending 2022 Pro 4 World Champion.
Welcome to the iRacing History Books, Connor Barry.
I race a pro light inside the real world. So ever since I've stopped in the Pro 4 World Championship, I've been in that truck. We've raced at Crandon, and we've raced some tracks out here on the West Coast. So I've been keeping myself entertained on that stuff. And then now we are going to start this all up again for the 2023 Pro 4 World Championship, and I'll also be inside real life also. So it's going to be a busy summer again.
Here comes Connor Barry getting physical now with Connor Parisi.
I think it went good. It was definitely a hard-fought battle. I knew that Swain was good, and I knew that it was going to be hard. I think the biggest thing what I am focused on trying to fix would be what happened in round 5 where I got flipped. I think that's one of the things I went back and I learned on how I should be smarter. I went from first in points to second, and we were like 18 back. So it's something I went back and I focused on that hard, and I think that we will be good. I think our speed this year, I'm not sure how it's going to be. They changed the dirt and stuff, so as long as I can just be smooth and smart, I think that I got a shot. I think just the pressure is there, and I just need to keep it calm, and I need to use the pressure as motivation to go out there and try my best, and I hope that I can win.
Connor Barry moves from Team General Tyre to Nitro Circus for 2023.
It's definitely like something cool. It was definitely a big change for me. We were alerted in late 2022 that we were no longer going to be on Jim Beaver. So I got the text from the owner of this team, and they got us all on board. We basically all went from Jim Beaver to our new team. The track I think I'm excited for will be Wild Horse. I was able to qualify first there for both of them, and then my best finish was a second, and I almost got first there by starting from 8th. So it's a track where I can go there and gain a bunch. If I could win 10 grand again, I would put it all back into my truck so I could go out there and race some more.
Wild West will look to regain his championship momentum that, of course, he was so consistent with. Top 10, in 15 of the 16 races. It was a remarkable run, but Keaton Swain's 16 top 10s was equally consistent. It was very, very close between the two of them. As always, though, World Championship action is to come. Before we do that, though, Ewan, it's time to break out an eclectic group of racers. Today, our All-Star Invitational sees not just celebrity guests, let's put it that way, but we also bring the Pro E-racers into the fun. And so to make things fair for our special guests who maybe have less sim racing experience, we've divided our All-Star Invitational into 2 categories for 2023.
Yeah, that's going to be very exciting to see everybody out there together, of course, but and all racing together, but 2 different categories as well. And I've got to say, I really enjoyed the All-Star races, just to give us a flavour of what we're going to see later on in the night when the serious stuff gets underway, if you will. And of course, it's a little bit less serious, isn't it? At the start of the broadcast, we've got different trucks being used throughout the season, and just a bit of fun, shorter races as well, which keeps things very condensed.
Absolutely, and so let's take a look at that schedule and walk you through what they're going to be doing, because they do change their cars. They'll start with the Pro 2 Lite, 400 horsepower, 2-wheel drive. It's an introduction into dirt racing for many of them. But halfway through the season, when we make our way to what will be the All-Star round for the World Championship drivers, we will continue to score points in our official championship for these All-Stars. We'll head to Crandon Short, break out the Pro 4 with its 900 horsepower Ewan, but 4-wheel drive.
Absolutely, what a machine as well, but fantastic racing that you get in all of them. I'm sure we'll enjoy it thoroughly. And the best thing, of course, I guess you get to use both types at all the circuits since the way the schedule works. We have one run through of the tracks and then another one, which means you'll get to have all the combinations, which is good news as well. So we'll see that change in the second half of the season, of course, but it will be the same great action, I'm sure.
And so let's talk about where we are today as qualifying gets underway for the All-Star Invitationals. We've landed in Sparta, Nevada at the Wild West Motorsports Park. It looks deceptively simple from up above, just 4 turns, 0.9 miles. But the undulation is the big thing. You climb up into turn number 1, and you've got to be quite early on the brakes, if anything, because you don't want to run too wide. You've got to be relatively tight to the apex as you dive down the hill into what's another heavy braking zone. But you're getting thrown around at all times. It's almost like you're in a supercross, motocross kind of a ride at sometimes, Ewan.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that really caught my eye as sort of an amateur watching this circuit is in towards the very final corner. Maybe pros would disagree with it and say, no, this is easy, but the amount of bumps and little rises you have on the way into that final corner, bobbling around that you have to do, is quite phenomenal from my eye anyway. So it looks very simple, but it's certainly not.
So let's take a look at some of the cars out on track for qualifying. Some new drivers to introduce you to, some returning drivers as well. There's Wes the Mess in his Next Level Racing powered number 88, but Zachary Drapkin, someone that we saw fighting up towards the front. I was hoping we'd get to ride around for a lap with him, but he does not get to cross the line with a lap time on the board. It is going to be Nate Stewart that will jump to the top of the qualifying sheets for the time being, 54.059. Drapkin was in a fun fight with Luke Canup, so expected to see him out there, and amongst some of our other pro esports drivers that will be competing out there in the field, we got the likes of Blake Reynolds in one of our eNASCAR star cars. You'll be able to pick them apart by the number plates, I do believe, on their trucks. But here's Wes the Mess out of turn number 3.
Yeah, and then you'll make your way up towards the final corner, which I was just talking about in terms of all the bumps. I don't think we're fully at racing speed here by the looks of things, looking fairly ginger towards the end of the lap. But there's the bump I was talking about, really sort of compressed in towards that final turn, and then you get out of it. Maybe the pros will say that's easy and I'm just amateur, but it looks hard to me. And then you've got all of the bumps and rises up towards the line and over it, of course, and then plunging uphill in towards turn number 1.
And one thing to note is they get 5 minutes and effectively unlimited laps. There are 10 laps configured for them to run in this qualifying session, so they will get the opportunity to run as they would like. There's another car that does not seem necessarily to be up to speed. Nate Stewart still at the top. It's the 66, one of our Nitro Circus machines. That's Blake Reynolds in one of our Pro All-Star cars versus the celebrity guest that we will have. Field relatively close though at the front. Only, what, 3/10 splits the top 6 right now.
Yeah, very close. I guess you'd expect that over a track of this length, less than a mile around here, but even so, it's very difficult on the way through it, so maybe you'd expect things to be a bit more spread out. Now we'll get some more times in, some new times, and the new fastest one up at the top as well, as Drapkin goes to the front just for now, but still to your point, it's still very close.
It's only 8 thousandths. Yeah, that's an impressive benchmark from Nate Stewart that joins us in a Dale Jr. tribute paint that we'll see in a few moments time. One other change that we have for 2023 is all the drivers have been able to customize their paints a little bit more and bring their individual flair to the opening act. Still 60 seconds left to run in the session as Reynolds will continue to run some laps. Note that there is a berm on the outside of turn number 4. As you work your way to the line, when we get to the World Championship drivers, they will definitely be using it, but not be shocked if Drapkin and Knupp as well might potentially try and do some sort of similar things. We're in a qualifying session where 1/10 of a second splits the top 5, and with the Pro 2 cars having less horsepower, Ewan, sometimes that requires more skill.
Absolutely, we're certainly seeing that right now. It certainly provides a different level of driving challenge, and both of the two trucks will over the course of the season. We'll see them both a little bit later, but yeah, it's certainly a different driving challenge, and maybe we'll see some drivers who are good at the start of the season and not so much at the end, and vice versa as well. You never know. So yeah, at the moment that's the way it is, but clearly these trucks are providing a close session, and that bodes well for us in the race. That's exactly what we want, the close racing and all the bumping and barging that I'm sure we're going to get as well.
Qualifying comes to an end, and well, picking up where he very much left off at the end of 2022, Zachary Drapkin once again finds his way to the top in qualifying and will set the benchmark for our All-Star Invitational. We're ready to go for the very first time in the season. Let's run you down through the starting grid. It's the red line oil car that will lead us to the green. Drapkin, of course, alongside with Nate Stewart, Blake Reynolds then, and Luke Canup on row number 2 with Mia Rose, the 909, inside of Leo Mora for the Omega Sim Racing number 30. Trevor Teal, also in one of those Nitro Circus machines, inside of Mr. Aero HD, Keenan Kusin, who lines up in the Big Fan Esports 03. Wes the Mess, inside of the hyperstar Brendan Lichtenberg, who I'm sure has the i5G contingent watching over his shoulder. Mikey Lawrence, Adam Briggs, no stranger to the dirt, 11th and 12th positions, but last row, Justin Malillo, Jim Deschamps. Round out the 14-car field. Once again, Jim Deschamps in the Nitro Circus machine as ever. 14 cars head out there, and if you're wondering what we'll do for the second race of the evening, well, there are 2 races on deck, and we will fully invert the field for the second one, Ewan, which always leads to a little more drama.
Yeah, it certainly does. So this first race is going to have a very different look to it because everyone's in their qualifying order, and it might have a little bit more of a formulaic feel to it even. But the second race will certainly be throwing the cat amongst the pigeons, and everyone will be everywhere, I think, in that one. It provides a bit more unpredictability than what we're going to get in the pro races a little bit later on. But that's exactly what we're here for. We're here for some good action.
Absolutely. And Pro 2 trucks with the 2-wheel drive means you can't rely on the front tires to drive you out of situations. Got to set things up a little bit more as we jump on board, looking driver's eye view from the outside of the front row with Nate Stewart. Just a reminder as well, if you are joining us for this iRacing Off-Road Championship but aren't already part of our iRacing community, new memberships are 40% off. Head on to iRacing.com to learn a little bit more. And we've got a busy World Championship schedule continuing to roll. eNASCAR in action yesterday on the streets of Chicago. Bobby Zelensky on top, and the iRacing Butt Kicker Late Model World of Outlaws Championship getting underway on July the 10th. Ewan, we're getting ready to roll. What are your expectations? 12 laps on deck.
Well, madness, I'm hoping for anyway. It should be a lot of fun. You know, first race of the season, everybody's a little bit new. Everybody doesn't know what to expect, and we're going to have some fun with it.
I say 12 laps, it's 10 minutes timed. It will depend really how much fighting we're going to see. Look at them already stack up as Drapkin holds them with a pace truck already miles away. Heading off to the start zone here of the iRacing Off-Road All-Star Invitational 2023 sees the green flag in the air, and Drapkin waited so long that Nate Stewart gets the jump up the hill. They'll get onto the anchors in through the braking zone, and Drapkin's got to watch out, not just on his outside. Blake Reynolds trying to get to his inside as well. Drapkin leads down the hill, almost 3 wide for second behind, but a tidy start through the field as we descend to turn 2.
Yeah, that was all looking good through turn 1. What about 2, though? Goodness me, that was a lift up onto 2 wheels through the inside of the corner, and 1 spin in the background, but everybody else getting away nicely, and a very clean start, which is exactly what we want to see. And the field will now begin to spread out a little bit, because everyone's in qualifying order, the fastest at the front, and Drapkin looking to use this to get away already.
Got to be a little bit careful if you're Nate Stewart and Blake Reynolds through that final corner. Not fight too hard and let Drapkin run away. But at the line, margin's going to be closer to 1 full second, because as they slide side by side, almost 2 rows deep, Drapkin converts pole position to the lead at the end of the opening lap. Now we'll see how we continue to go from there. Remember, we had, what, a 1/10 of a second splitting the top 5 initially, so they're all pretty close. It's all about the racecraft now and understanding how the track develops underneath them.
Yeah, and it certainly will, as we know in our racing, dirt gets moved around and stuff, so it will change. There's more contact at turn 2 as well, as Reynolds, I think that was getting tipped up onto 2 wheels. Excuse me, it was Canup actually who got tipped up onto 2 wheels by Rose, but that was thankfully rectified fairly quickly. But it has produced a battle for 5th place now that is, or 4th place, excuse me, that's really kicked off with 1 driver in front and 2 side by side behind.
Luke Canup got into the wall almost through turn 3, and it's going to mean that as Mia Rose is on the outside, it's Keenan Kusin trying to get underneath her, but that momentum the long way around, able to roll off of the corner, and Kusin going to slide back into line for the time being. And up into the opening corner once again. You can see the leaders just in the front of the shot, separated by 7/10 of a second. Drapkin still leads. Kusin gets the elbows out though, and Mia Rose down through turn 1 on their run to turn 2. Both get it sorted out and straightened out, but behind they had to check up.
Yeah, there was a point there where you thought both of them were going to go around, and what's going to happen here? But thankfully, they all things going nicely, and it's still side by side here. Looks like Kusin's been pushed back, and there's the roll. Oh, goodness me. Big crash for Mora, that is, who's gone off the road entirely.
It's the first roll of 2023, and Leo Mora is the unfortunate victim, but we'll see if with these trucks being rather resilient. Look at the back of shot, he's already up and going of his own steam. Trevor Teal now is the one getting the bumper to Keenan Kusin in that fight for 6th position, but all this has meant that the top 4 have started to break away slightly. In fact, it's really a top 3. Drapkin, Stewart, and Reynolds split by 7/10 of a second.
Absolutely, yeah, it does seem quite hard to damage these trucks, to be honest, and that won't phase them at all. Fortunately, more right down towards the back now, which could produce a better result maybe in race 2, as we know, with the invert, but still a long way to go in this one. And still the group for around 5th or so is the one with the most battling. I know the leaders are getting away, as you mentioned, but they're not really fighting each other at the moment. They're quite calm amongst themselves.
Here's a look at what happened there. Leo Mora, just the unfortunate victim of Keenan Kusin, who we're going to have to ask some tough questions of, but you can see how the truck landed on all 4 wheels. Always nice when it's able to do that. Wes Graham, Adam Briggs behind, 10th, 11th, and 12th, I think, squabbling there, but it's Reynolds up the inside of Nate Stewart and able to get that move done. Gap opens up to Drapkin once again, only a couple of laps away from half distance in race number 1.
Yeah, this is what I see being the problem for everybody who's not Drapkin at the moment, because he's out in front on his own, not really fighting with anyone, whereas there's potential for a big battle for second here, and those positions further back as well. But Drapkin's not having to deal with that, and that could allow him to get away with the race lead. For now, though, he's certainly not got away. It's a good move by Reynolds to get into second place now, and maybe he can get eyes forward and start chasing down, but it will take a bit of closing here. There's quite a few truck lengths at the moment.
That was a wonderful shot from up above. You got a great sense for how narrow it really is, even though it looks wide when you're in the dirt and sometimes not having full control of where you're really putting your car. It can be quite difficult. Through that bump that you had mentioned quite prominently, and I found out quite unfortunately when I got behind the wheel a couple of days ago, can send you flying off to the right if you're not careful, but these drivers all seem to have a lock in it. Did see a couple of questions in the iRacing Esports network. They're all dealing with a fixed setup, Ewan, so it's not like any driver's got a better truck than anyone else.
Yeah, there's no difference in that. So nobody will be blaming the truck, which is the usual excuse you'd reach for. But they can't do that on this occasion. It's purely about the drivers. That's exactly what we want to see as well. We don't want to see these crazy setups ruining these kind of races. Just a bit of fun here. And so, fixed setup is a good idea. And it's helped keep things very, very close together, as we saw in qualifying. We're seeing now in the race as well. I really thought Drapkin would be able to use that advantage to get away. That hasn't happened. Reynolds keeping it very honest.
Reynolds, by the way, on Twitter calls himself a left turn connoisseur. There's 2 left turns. Well, three left turns and 1 right. Isn't that right?
Yeah, isn't that right? Yes.
He's at an advantage, I guess. Nate Stewart makes a mistake through the final corner, slips up just a little bit, and that's where the 2-wheel drive loses out. You can't just rely on power to work you forward. You've got to very much set it up. Like Reynolds starting to put the pressure on your race leader.
Yeah, the problem comes when he goes down here and he plunges downhill towards turn 2. He sees a right-hander coming up and thinks, well, I'm going to be rubbish. But that's not been the case, clearly. He's really fast around everywhere at the moment, and arguably faster than Drapkin. While that wasn't the case in qualifying, it is in the race, and things can change over the course of even 10 minutes, as we've seen. The track conditions will change and whatever, but in terms of even race pace, some people are able to keep it consistent for longer, and at the moment Reynolds is certainly showing himself to be able to do that with less than 4 minutes remaining. He's really starting to apply the pressure now.
Going to be a fun little tussle, but don't forget, we'll fully invert them for the second 10-minute race of today's proceedings. Reynolds gets a little bit high and out of the groove, but able to gather it under control. Stewart still struggling, and he's being closed by Luke Knupp in that number 05 machine. Right, used to seeing Knupp up towards the front, but both Drapkin and Knupp were 2 drivers that we pointed out as potential competitors in the World Championship ranks. It's good that we've got some more competition to add to them, but even the likes of Mia Rose, Aero, Trevor Teal, Brendan Lichtenberg feels not that spread apart after 7 minutes of racing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite close, and that's encouraging news for us as well. But not so much side by side at the front here at the moment. Maybe not as much as some would expect. Reynolds is very much there, but has decided not to challenge really so far. And Drapkin has had a fairly easy ride of things, although of course he is still driving pretty fast at the moment, and is of course putting the distance into those behind as well, which is good news. Field stretching out a little bit, but not too much. If these 2 started fighting, then I'm sure that Stewart and Knupp will be there pretty quickly.
We saw that for the faster drivers last year, working through the full invert wasn't necessarily a challenge. Going to be interesting how that plays out with the 14 trucks out on track. Wes Gray and Brendan Lichtenberg battling amongst themselves. That's for 9th and 10th positions. But outside of that, we're finding that with this Pro 2 truck, it's quite difficult to really set things up. 400 horsepower versus 900 horsepower. That's not insignificant.
No, well, more than double. So yeah, it's certainly not insignificant at all, and we'll be seeing that difference certainly over the course of the day. But there we are at the moment. These guys just dealing with what they have, and Drapkin still doing that. I believe it's going to be maybe 2 laps here. Not entirely sure. 150 to go as we go over the line. It's going to be quite close actually, but we'll see when we get there. Not long left though is the point. Less than 2 minutes now for Reynolds, and he's so far not challenged at all, which I'm surprised about.
Haven't really dropped off too much pace as Blake Reynolds, small mistake, and hits the inside wall. We'll lose him some ground on the run down in through turns 1 and 2, but he should be able to close back up. He's just running out of time and hasn't shown any sort of potential to pass. I think it's more about Luke Knupp, who might already be up alongside the inside of Nate Stewart. Was for a moment. I think we might have a fight for the final step of the podium.
I think so. Canuck looking very, very threatening at the moment in a way that Reynolds hasn't really in that battle for the lead so far, but it's not a great exit out of turn 3 for Canuck, and so I don't think it's going to happen into turn 4. Not that he can see anything about it. He'll head down towards the inside. It's a decent move. Oh, tipped up onto 2 wheels. That's absolutely fine. And Stewart pushed out wide back to 4th.
Don't think Stewart's just been able to get the sense of that bump late in the run through that final corner. And as we head on to what should be the last lap of the race, but I don't think it will be given how close we were to 55 odd seconds when Drapkin came across the line. We might have 2 laps left to run. Canuck very much has a stranglehold now on that 3rd and final step of the podium. Drapkin has been able to push Blake Reynolds a full second away from him, very much repelling the pressure as I believe we are on the penultimate lap of the race.
Yeah, it looks like it. We're just going to be able to squeeze another one in. It looks like Reynolds may have made a mistake, albeit briefly, because he's still more than half a second away. And as soon as Canuck got through on Stewart, and you just wonder whether Reynolds would have been worth going for that as well. Once he got into that second place and towards the lead, he maybe should have gone for it.
Well, I thought wrong. We might have had enough time for one more lap, but Zachary Drapkin will see the checkered flag to close the book on Chapter 1 in 2023's iRacing Off-Road All-Star Invitational. Pole position to victory, but by no means easy. And now we'll have to do it from the very back. Reynolds, Knupp, Stewart, Rose, that's the rest of your top 5. While Aero, Trevor Teal, and then Mikey Lawrence will filter on through behind. There's that wonderful look from up above. Can just see how much this track switches back on itself, and we might even be able to get up high enough that you'd see the entirety of the track and might even be able to pick apart which car was which. Final cars will come across the line as they may be trampling on one another on that entry towards turn number 2, and we'll grab a look at the race results. It is Drapkin, less than a second the margin over Blake Reynolds, while Canuck does grab that final step on the podium. Stewart, Rose, Coulson, Teal, Lawrence, Graham, and more after flipping, still able to finish inside of the top 10. While down in 11th position, we will see the final 4 cars, including Brendan Lichtenberg, Justin Malolo, Jim Deschamps, and then Adam Briggs in his next level racing machine. And as mentioned, we'll rack them up once again, but do it in reverse order. And so Drapkin will line up in 14th, Adam Briggs will lead us to the green flag, and 10 more minutes of racing lies in front of us. If you're just joining us on the iRacing Esports Network, welcome to the 2023 iRacing Off-Road Championship. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, alongside with Ewan O'Leary, and don't worry, you haven't missed too much. You've just missed the first of our 2 All-Star races tonight, with the World Championship drivers still left to come. And Ewan, it's what, 2 in the morning around there for you? How awake are you feeling right now?
Yeah, still looking good, because yeah, the action's going to be fantastic. We've seen that first race, it's given us a bit of an idea as to what we're going to see over the coming 3 that we're going to have here in this broadcast. But I think this next one is just going to ramp it up a little bit, isn't it? It's going to push the fast guys to the back and some of the slower guys up towards the front of the field. And we saw with Mora in that race that it is possible to get past when you are a little bit of a faster driver. It's not exactly difficult to overtake, not too hard anyway. So we'll see a lot of that over the course of the next 10 minutes.
Absolutely. And again, I think this is an interesting preview for what comes up next, because this is 400 horsepower 2-wheel drive, so we're really just getting the sense for what the track looks like. We're not getting the sense for what the racing is truly going to end up being like. That's what we'll see a little bit later on when the All-Stars make their way to the Pro 4 trucks as well. Don't think we're going to get the chance to chat with our race winners, so we'll fill a little bit of time as the drivers warm themselves up for that reverse grid race number 2. And just remind you, if you like any of this racing, it's a great opportunity to jump onto iRacing. All official dirt series with these trucks are at the same tracks that you're watching today, so you see the racing here and you can go off and race tomorrow, Ewan.
Yeah, absolutely. You certainly can. That's the beauty of it as well, is that anyone can do it. Maybe not at World Championship level. Not all of us are good enough for that, but we can certainly all try, and that's the beauty of it. So yeah, you can race in exactly the same combination as these guys. Find some people who'll be racing with you as well, and that's all fantastic, because the racing that you see here filters down all the way through iRacing as well. So yeah, you'll find some people to race with at your level, and yeah, if you think it looks good, then jump on. Why not?
And the qualifying series that built the grid effectively for the World Championship was an official iRacing series available and open to everyone. So that's something just to incentivize you if you like the sort of racing and want to be a part maybe of our 2024 World Championship. Of course, all drivers in the All-Stars and the Pros a little bit later on are having to deal with a update to the dirt, and that's a significant update to the dirt, mostly targeted and tailored to the World of Outlaws community here on iRacing. But that's the partnership built with the Monster Games iRacing World of Outlaws collaboration on consoles, and so it carries forward to the dirt as well. And talking to some of the World Championship drivers, Ewan, it's been interesting to get their take on what they think is going to change, but they're more intrigued in what's going to be, I think, a rather static grid in a lot of ways. 19 of our 24 World Championship drivers return from 2022. Only 5 new faces that are really somewhat unknown.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't mind that as you go forward into a new World Championship season, because you kind of got the stories from last season. You can see how they carry forward into the next. You get some real recognisable faces, and that's what you see in real life motorsports, isn't it? And so what you want to get, I guess, in sim racing and some of these iRacing World Championships is the look of a real championship. You don't want a complete rotating cast of people who you start to doubt whether they're very good or not. You know that these guys are the absolute best, because nobody can actually break into the championship, I guess, and be good enough to get there. So it's I think it's a good sign of the quality of the field, certainly. And yeah, it has been a highly talked about update. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, definitely. And the great thing is that there's ever improving collaboration drivers in the World Championship providing feedback, and so they will continue to tweak on it in the ever evolving nature of iRacing. I mentioned it during slightly earlier, I should say, but it's a busy World Championship period. We're coming off our eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series race on the streets of Chicago. Bobby Zelensky coming out on top. July the 10th, the iRacing World of Outlaws Butt Kicker Late Model Series gets underway as well. So make sure you stay connected to us here on the iRacing Esports Network. Full invert coming up next though, Ewan. How excited are you to see what the madness is about to bring?
Yeah, it is going to be madness, so very much looking forward to it, because as I mentioned earlier, the fast guys will be able to overtake through the slower guys at the front of the field, but can they get all the way there is, I guess, the first story, because as you mentioned during the race, the field wasn't actually that spread out. So when you consider that the guys who won last time will have to do a lot of overtaking before the guys who start at front will be able to, have to defend from them, they might already have quite a few seconds of a head start. So it'd be interesting to see whether they can hold on. Based on the evidence of last season, you'd say maybe not, but you never know.
Well, let's find out. The field getting ready to get down to the grid and get ready to go for another 10 minutes of racing here at Wild West Motorsports Park. It's going to be Dim DeChamp that's actually on pole position alongside with Adam Briggs, Justin Melillo of Traction GG, and the place to go for all things World Championship, alongside with Team Hyperstar and Brendan Lichtenberg. Leo Mora's rolled once today. Let's see if he can avoid doing that in the second race here, while Wes Graham will roll alongside him. Hopefully not roll. Sorry, bad pun. Mikey Lawrence, Trevor Teal, 7th and 8th, with Keenan Kusin, Mia Rose, Nate Stewart, Luke Canup, as we get into our podium contenders in the fully inverted grid. In front of our final 2 starters, it's going to be Blake Reynolds and then Zachary Drapkin in the 66 and the number 56. You can't miss the purple, red, and then yellow roll cage of the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team. The familiar red line oil colors return to the Pro 2 trucks. We look from up above. Remind you that new memberships are 40% off, so head over to iRacing.com today if you want to join the party, as every day is race day here on iRacing. Ewan, if you are the drivers at the back, knowing that we've got 10 minutes of racing, but it was seemingly more difficult to pass the longer that we got into the race, are you going to be more aggressive at the start here?
Well, I wonder whether it was more difficult to pass towards the end, because everyone had kind of met their match in terms of pace by the end, which tends to happen in a race. So I wonder if that was playing into role more than the fact that it just got more difficult as the race goes on. But could be proved wrong, and it could be quite hard towards the end here as well. You do get this phenomenon where you start driving at the same pace as someone you're battling. If you're stuck there for too long, it's a strange place to find yourself sometimes, and maybe that will happen. But no, I think the front guys will have enough to at least get to the top 5, top 3 kind of area, maybe even win again.
How's your conversion to becoming an American going, Ewan?
Oh, you can tell me that. I don't think I'm going to pass any passport requirements anytime soon. But no, I'm enjoying the racing. I really am, because it's, well, to be honest, being from over the wrong side of the Atlantic Ocean, I've never seen stuff like this before, to be honest with you.
I like that you called it the wrong side of the Atlantic. Yeah, well, exactly. There you go. I'll say that this is the beauty of iRacing. We've got a little bit of everything. World Championships across 4 different disciplines. And of course, we just wrapped up the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. We're heading off into a revitalization of open wheel racing in partnership with turn racing. This is less formed up on the start. It's a lot more chaotic. The green flag's gonna fly, and Jim DeChomp's gonna lead us up the hill into the opening corner and onto the brakes for the very first time. 3 wide behind as we head up the hill. There's gonna be one car that goes around. Mia Rose definitely lost out majorly. 2 cars tangling, Justin Melillo and I believe Adam Briggs, who just about gets sorted out in time. We ride on board inside into turn 2.
Oh, this is going to be chaos. Has someone flipped over, I think? Yep, we do. We've got 2 over at turn 2. And someone's getting punted along the circuit. What the hell's going on there? But it's a bit of a mess down at turn 2. All of the racing now kicking off because it's reverse grid time. It's madness a little bit, but Mora's made a good spot here. A little bit further up the order compared to qualifying pace, you would say, because of the demise in race 1. However, it's a good start in race 2 and a big chance to win here now.
Brendan Lichtenberg doesn't know how to control that car, and so he's going to let not just Mora pass, but potentially Justin Melillo as well. See if Adam Briggs can hold off Mikey Lawrence from behind, because I haven't seen any of those drivers, the quick drivers, be able to work forward really wide for Brendan Lichtenberg because he saw Justin Melillo coming up the inside. One car almost ramped himself off the wall at turn number 1, almost 3-4 wide down the hill.
I think they attempted 5 at some point as well, but thought that's maybe a stupid idea, and they backed out of it all. In the end, it's just good racing in the midfield. The top 2 have got away, but this is fantastic. Side by side all the way through. That was really wide from Deschamps as well, and Mora has the lead and nearly a second to go with it already.
This is exactly what he'll want to see. Drapkin's gained 7 spots, has got halfway through the field, so plenty of ground to find though, and he has found himself 3 seconds off the back of Mora, who will just try and hit his marks now and run away. We're 3 wide off the exit of turn 4. Lichtenberg will hold off Drapkin and Mikey Lawrence, but I don't think that's going to last for much longer. Drapkin's not far away from cracking the top 5.
No, certainly not, and we'll be looking to do that as quickly as possible because Mora will get away. If not, side by side and bumping all the way through turn 1. Someone's gone around in the background as well. It's Stewart, who finished second in the first race, excuse me, 4th in the first race. Now drops back to almost the very back of this field. Thankfully, it's still good fighting, but it's now for second. Deschamps has been dragged into this.
This is really costing them time. Briggs up the inside, will grab second as Justin Melillo almost slid his way off out of Nevada somehow. 3.5 seconds the margin now up front. Melillo loose and sideways. He'll lose a couple more spots. It's now Deschamps that's going to come back parallel into the path of the track. Absolute madness, but somehow the All-Stars keep it straight.
Well, that was remarkable. Felt sure that someone was going to go around there, but in the end, it was just good racing and beating and banging in the end. Into turn 1 they'll go. It's a big slide in from Drapkin, who gets pile drive there, but he's held on to it. He's now in 3rd. He's made a place out of all of that somehow.
Remarkable. That's just unfair talent at the end of the day. On board, we're going to jump and we'll just see the dirt on the helmet you can tear off on these cars as well, and sometimes you have to. That's Drapkin up and over, and race 1 winner, stationary and not going anywhere.
Well, he very nearly did exactly what he had to. Get to the front of this group and try and chase down the leader. I don't know if that was going to happen anyway, but it's certainly not going to now because he's gone around at or gone over at turn 2. Don't know who hit him, but it was everybody making contact with everybody else, so it's impossible to tell really. And they're still going for it into the final turn, this time for 4th place that Keenan Kusin currently holds.
It was Canuck that tried to get the elbows out up the inside, but Kusin kept him squeezed as best as he could. Once again on that rise up to turn 1, but this time Canuck very much as the inside, and surely tighter line, better traction off the corner as he powers down. Kusin more concerned about the fact that he's 3 wide off the corner, not just with Trevor Teal, but with contact with Jim DeChamps. There's so much going on. Lucas Moore is 7 seconds clear at the front. Parking lot down at turn number 2, the 43 up and over.
What on earth was that all about? I've never seen 2 cars in that position before, and unfortunately Deschamps has gone around on his roof, and he is going to be, well, miles back at the end of this, unfortunately. The battles still continue on up and down. You can see it in multiple groups. A fantastic shot from the air of what is going on here, and it's just everywhere, people everywhere. Reynolds now into 2nd place. To be honest, it might already be too little too late.
I tell you what though, he was holding relatively close with Zachary Drapkin in that first race, and so now still half race distance to go. Is there a chance for him to try and close that marker. Drapkin, if you're curious, did recover after going up and over and then being very much sandwiched amongst a whole bunch of cars. He is in the 9th position and in front of what seems to be a very fun little tussle with Briggs, Lichtenberg and Melillo continuing the Royal Rumble that we're seeing here in Nevada. I mean, we are in Sparta, Nevada. It's like, you know, they're reliving their gladiator dreams.
Yeah, I'll pretend to know where that is, but I look like I could locate it because of just how it looks. But yeah, I could probably narrow it down. But yeah, it's a fantastic facility, fantastic racetrack as well, by the way. It really provides the action, like this kind of stuff. I don't know what was happening here, to be honest. Deschamps found himself on the roof though eventually, and I think somebody else toppled over, or very near to, on the inside of that corner. It was all a big mess, which has slightly dispersed the crowd, really.
I'm pretty sure on the opening lap of this second race we had 2 cars go over, by the way. So yeah, it's been a lot more chaotic with the reverse grid, as one might expect. Lucas Moore has taken advantage on the last lap, actually held the lead to Blake Reynolds, and so 4 minutes to go. Don't necessarily think we are going to see a what would be remarkable charge from second to the lead. Instead, Blake Reynolds, I think, going to see maybe Luke Knupp close if he can get past Mikey Lawrence. Zachary Drapkin's too far behind to really work on forward. In our unofficial official championship, it's looking quite good for the 66 car.
Yeah, a couple of high positions, high placings will do you a lot of good, but it's all about those reverse races, isn't it? If you're trying to have a good day overall in both rounds, if you're totting them up together, it's about this one really. I don't say it's easy to hold your place in race 1, but it's certainly easier than doing this, because you don't have to overtake anyone, at least, to hold your place. To get up to where you were, you have to do an awful lot of overtaking, especially if you finished up towards the front, which Reynolds did, started on the back row, of course, for this second race, and that's given him a lot of work to do, but he's done it really well. And as I mentioned, it's probably too little too late to catch the leader because of Moore and his situation, but it's a good drive from him, and he should be able to cement this place.
I give a shout out to Joshua Lee and to Evan Pasoko watching from their Monster Jam headquarters, where Joshua Lee should instead be in the broadcast booth. I'm not complaining about Ewan, but Josh's priorities clearly not where they need to be. Especially since he's missing Trevor Teal, who will try and convince to get in costume at some point this season. He's alongside with Mia Rose, who had pretty good speed in that first race, and now she'll try and hold on to a spot inside of the top 5. Outside line's not where you want to be, though, in these 2-wheel drive, lower horsepower trucks. Look how she tries to ramp it, though, on the run-through.
Yeah, real big run on the outside, which he can do. Of course, these corners really wide in terms of how you can be side by side. These trucks are quite big, and it still looks very small compared to the lines that you can take. They both steam into turn 1. Turn 2, excuse me. Mia Rose even missing the inside of the corner by quite some distance, but it didn't seem to matter in the end. Getting through up into the top 5, which is all good news. And Trevor Teal also gets through, as Keenan Kusin had a sniff of 5th place, but gets pushed back to 7th almost immediately.
Keenan Kusin, by the way, who's done some real-world commentary recently, was doing some 24-hour racing over in Japan, and so always great to see Keenan getting his spotlight. He's going to have to fight for this spotlight to try and get up into that top 5. I think we've got, where's Leo Mora, coming down to turn number 2. 1 lap to go after this one. I'm very hesitant to commit, Ewan, after what happened in the first race, though.
Yeah, I was convinced that we were going to get another one, then we didn't. So that threw us all off a little bit and brought a surprise end to the race, to be honest, because normally iRacing is quite forgiving, and sometimes you can cross the line at 0 and it won't even throw the checker flag on occasion. But on that occasion, it was very eager to throw the checker flag, and that's fine. But yeah, on this occasion, I think we're going to be absolutely fine, as I think that's Deschamps getting out of everyone's way, isn't it, in the laps car. Feels like we've barely had 10 minutes here, really, because there's been so much to talk about, so much to watch over the course of this race.
These broadcasts fly on by, but in a very different way to what the iRacing Rallycross World Championship used to feel like. That is Jim Deschamps, who is slightly holding up a couple of machines, and it's going to lead to a 3-wide moment up in towards the opening corner, and I think the 43 is going to back out of it and allow almost door-to-door contact between Keenan Kusin and Trevor Teal. Teal gets on through. It's Drapkin now that tries to work to the outside in towards that second corner in this fight for 7th spot.
Yeah, good fight it is as well. Still very much going on. Nearly 3 wide we are out of turn 2, in fact, but That's not quite happened, and it does look like Mora is going to draw this race to a close. What a fantastic drive and a runaway win.
Well, he was the first to flip in 2023. He's the second to win, so I guess at least he goes from upside down to on top. Leo Mora, is a winner in the iRacing Off-Road All-Star Invitational. Blake Reynolds will grab a second consecutive second-place finish, while Luke Canup will be able to claw his way back up onto a podium. Remarkable stuff through the field. After a slightly quiet race number one, that was the opposite of quiet.
Yeah, that certainly was. It was action all the way through, right to the very end, and it was fantastic to watch. Lucas Moura taking a break from playing for Spurs.
Yeah,
and,
you knew exactly where my mind was with that as well.
I know, yeah. El Moura as well, anyway. Yeah, a fantastic drive for him, though, because even after he got to the front, and even after Reynolds got to the front, in fact, he never really got caught. He clearly had the pace to stay there.
Yeah, I love the smile as well. This is the great thing about the All-Stars. They're competitive about this, and especially given there are some strong names in the field, he's out there completing a victory lap and a well-deserved one. We'll grab a look at the race results and hopefully catch up with our race winners as well. Leo Moore, again, from flipping to winning. It's a pretty nice story when you think about it like that. Blake Reynolds second, Luke Canup third. Good points for the two of them. In front of Mikey Lawrence and Mia Rose, who definitely showed some speed on the dirt. Looking forward to seeing how she moves on to the Pro 4 trucks as well. Trevor Teal, Zachary Drapkin, who fought his way back to 7th. Keenan Kusin, Brendan Lichtenberg, and then Nate Stewart rounding out the top 10. Just 4 more, as mentioned before, but only 2 on the lead lap. Wes Graham and Justin Melillo. Adam Briggs 1 lap down, and Deschamps had to get out of the way. 3 laps down for him, but definitely not necessarily where his pace was reflected. We'll give it a few moments to see if we can catch up with Leo Mora, our race number 2 winner. I'm not seeing, unfortunately, Zachary Drapkin standing by. So instead, let's see if we can catch up very quickly with Luke Canup, who rejoins us as an all-star. Luke, great to have you back in the series, and looked like a quite interestingly competitive field in that Pro 2 Lights to kick things off.
Yeah, it definitely was. I haven't touched the off-road truck since the Beetle Lights at Grandin last season to wrap up the All-Stars. So, you know, I came in here kind of like, you know, sketched out, didn't know what I was doing half the time, but, you know, put the dirt experience I have to the test, and, you know, got third in both races. Not the results I wanted, but, you know, good long season ahead of them.
I am quite curious what you think about the Pro 2 versus the Pro 4 truck as well. Pro 2 Light in particular, because we're talking 400 horses versus 900, 2-wheel drive versus 4-wheel drive. We'll get to race both of them in this All-Star campaign. Which one are you thinking is going to be more fun?
Oh, I always liked the Pro 4 more. You know, when I used to do Pro 4 basically full time on the sim, it was a blast, and, you know, definitely excited with the new dirt refresh. To see how it is. The Pro 2 Light seemed to be a blast, you know, keeping the drivers close, and I think that's exactly what iRacing wanted to do with the All-Stars, keep everyone close, have good battles. So I think we did just that today, and we got a few more weeks to go.
Absolutely love the truck that you break out for us here in 2023, Luke, and hopefully looking forward to seeing you on the podium a couple more times through the course of the season.
For sure, guys. Thank you, and just want to thank Luke Racing, iRacing.funny, Peak Performance Motorsports, and Impact Race Grid, and then you guys for putting this on.
Luke Canup, double third-place finishes for him. He'll surely be quite happy with that. We do have a race winner to chat with, though. Leo Mora is standing by with you and O'Leary.
Leo, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Second race I want to go to first, because that was the good part of this one. How did you find the opening, especially to that race? Because we know it's reverse grid, strange things can happen. What was it like for you? Here we go.
Hello. Good evening. Thank you for having me. The grid was really hard. I believe everybody was well prepared. I saw great battles. The first race, unfortunately, I got some contact, and it pretty much I need to recreate my race from the scratch. But second race, I took the advantage, did some overtakes, and I got at the first place, and I just thought and bring home.
Of course, we've got a whole season ahead of us. This is only the first step in this one. Expecting, what are you hoping for from the next 8 weeks or so?
I hope we have great battles. I can't see we have great races here, and I'm looking forward for the next race.
Thanks very much. We're looking forward to have you here. Leo, congratulations on your Race 2 victory. Thanks for coming to chat to us as well. We're now going to Arjuna, who is alongside with Blake Reynolds.
Yeah, another all-star campaign for Blake Reynolds and 2 second-place finishes. Seems like you quite like this Pro 2 truck and the new changes. How was that first round here at Wild West for you, Blake?
Well, wild. First of all, I did not think I was going to be able to keep up with Drapkin or Luke or even Nate. Those guys, from what I previously heard, were much faster than me. So I qualify, I start up front, I'm like, okay. I get up to second, I'm like, okay. We get to the reverse grid, I get through the field, I'm like, okay. So, yeah, good run for the Nitro Circus Next Level Racing truck. And I'm looking forward to the rest of this season. I wasn't a big fan of Wild West, but I am looking forward to Bark River and Crandon. Those guys are my favorites.
Those are the long flowing tracks where you really drive the track rather than race each other around what is basically a boring in some ways. I'll ask you, Blake, as a member of the Nitro Circus Sim team, a brand new formed organization here in 2023, what should we expect from your guys as we get ready to go for the World Championship campaign?
Hopefully to be a powerhouse. I mean, the labeling suggests we are, so obviously the new update, a fresh season to start. We don't even know who's fast or not, so we're looking to be a powerhouse team, I think. And even here in the All Stars, we got Teal and Jim and I can't remember if we have anybody else, but looking to continue some good runs and just represent Next Level Racing and Nitro Circus well.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us as ever, Blake, and looking forward to seeing who else you'll be competing with over the course of this All-Star Invitational, because I'm sure it's going to get even more competitive from here. We'll move over from Blake Reynolds to our final guest of the All-Star Invitationals, who we'll have a quick chat with, and it's, like I mentioned, the man to talk about all things World Championship. Justin Milillo of Traction GG joins us now. Justin, first, you're an All-Star again. How does that feel?
It's pretty cool. Let me turn you guys down. I wasn't expecting an interview, but yeah, pretty cool to be invited back to this whole deal. And I was an absolute menace out there in that second race for sure. But really, really fun. Really cool to get back on this off-road scene.
Let's talk about things not off-road for a second, because we're just coming off eNASCAR, Streets of Chicago. What's your take on what was a rather intriguing road course race, I was about to say?
Yeah, that track is, I ended up running that earlier today in NIS, and that track is very demanding, and it was really impressive. It was even more impressive having felt that now, knowing how well the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers did last night. They really did put on a really good show. Those top three put on a spectacular performance, and it was it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out in the real world this weekend as well, because we got 2 races coming up there. So really cool to see that iRacing got involved in that and ended up making that track pretty much for them, that they're going to race in the real NASCAR.
Such a crazy story, such a cool way to see those blurring lines between virtual and reality. Let's talk about off-road then, because last season was a doozy. I had so much fun doing it. How much fun are you thinking we're going to have with 19 returning drivers and 5 very strong rookies?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this upcoming event tonight. I think we're going to see a lot, because we have a lot of the same returning faces. We're going to see a lot of those same faces that are going to be coming, up towards the front. I'm sure Connor Berry is going to have a very strong performance again this season. Keaton Swain, Josh Edmondson. There are so many, really good drivers that are back and a part of this series that I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do this season. With the new dirt refresh that's going on, it definitely felt different out there tonight, for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how they can play in the dirt with these new changes.
And before we let you go, Justin, if people want to follow you and follow all things World Championship, where do they go?
You follow me on Twitter. I'm at Justin Melillo. Pretty easy to find me. I'm writer at traction.gg, where I'll be putting my World Championship race reports. And yeah, that's about it.
Look at all the things in the backdrop as well. Repping iRacing, NASCAR, and got the Simi over his shoulder as well. Justin, we'll see you in a week's time. Thanks for chatting with us.
You know it. Thank you, Adrina.
Always good to have a chat with our friend Justin Melillo. And Ewan, All-Stars always puts a smile on my face, but now it's time to buckle down for the serious business. And we talked about it quickly with Blake Reynolds. Nitro Circus showing up in form. Factory Sim Sport have 7 different drivers in the field. Dirt Refresh is a major talking point. We're about to see what these teams have been able to find in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, as we've just heard, really major talking points. So how is this season going to be different? How is this race going to be different to all of what we saw last season? It could be a really, really different prospect to what we had last year. So very much looking forward to it. It's a nice warm-up to have the All-Stars go first, but now it's the pros. Now things get even more serious.
It is time to truly strap on in. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the iRacing Esports Network with the iRacing Off-Road Championship.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
It is the wildest iRacing World Championship. It is the 2023 iRacing Off-Road Championship that gets underway with its championship quest here live from Wild West Motorsports Park. Hello everyone, welcome to the iRacing Esports Network as we get ready to get underway. 9 weeks from today, on August the 23rd, we'll leave the big house knowing who is the second iRacing World Champion. The question is it going to be Connor Barry or one of the other 23 drivers stake their claim for $25,000? Let's find out. My name's Arjuna Kankipati, not joined by Joshua Lee, instead by Ewan O'Leary. And Ewan, this is what we've been waiting for. These drivers have been waiting a while to get going, and now with the added complication of a dirt refresh to try and figure out.
Absolutely, it's all been thrown into the mix on the run-ups in towards this World Championship, and that's fantastic for us. Not sure the drivers will be particularly pleased about so much ambiguity going into this, but that's exactly what we're here for. Who can adapt to these new conditions the best? Who can get off their season to a good start? It's going to be really important because, as we saw last season, it was a close championship. You can't afford to have bad races, really. We saw bad races really cost some drivers, so you've got to be on it right from the start, and that starts today.
Take a look at the schedule because it's very similar to what we had in 2022. Still 4 tracks. We visit each of them twice, but we slightly shake up the order somewhat. Wild West today, Crandon 7 days from today, but that's not the same order in which we'll loop back to them after the All-Star round, because we get 1 week halfway through the season, Ewan, to let off some steam after I'm sure what's going to be a contentious first 4 rounds of the championship as we head to the Pro 2s and we head to Crandon Shore.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting that to split the season up in the middle. We talked about it at the start of the broadcast. It's a very different prospect to maybe all of the, well, definitely is all the other rounds because of the way it is and the fact that it doesn't really matter. So we'll see the guys letting their hair down a bit, having a bit of fun. But you don't want to make any rivalries in that race because that'd be awkward. It's a good way to break up the season.
Absolutely, and let's talk a little bit more about Wild West. We've already seen 2 races here tonight, but as we head to Sparta, let me make sure I say it correctly for Evan Pasoko, Nevada. It's 0.9 miles, 4 turns. It's the undulation which you don't get the best sense of from up above. lap record here in 2022 was a 49.099 in the race. In qualifying, interestingly, it was slower, 49.947, if you want to try and track what the lap times compare to 12 months ago. What do we know though, Ewan? In the Pro 2s, in the Pro 2 Lite, it was hard to pass. With Pro 4s, a little bit more power, even more trucks. Surely it can't be that much easier.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, really. It was certainly the case in race 1 of the All-Stars that we just saw, where things were a little bit difficult, in all honesty. Maybe certainly more than we were expecting, but race 2 was all bets are off. Now, I know we're not having a full field invert this time, but we are going to have a little bit of an invert. Top 8, of course, from race 1 to 2 will be changed around. That's different, of course, from last season, where we had that in qualifying too. That's gone now, but we do still have that for race 2.
Yeah, let's talk about the format and some of the changes for 2023, because I think that qualifying or lack of qualifying invert for the first main event of each doubleheader is so significant, given that Connor Barry averaged second place in qualifying. Those are valuable championship points, and then he'll have a better starting spot for race number 1. 5 points for qualifying and pole position, 50 points for a race victory, whether it's the first or the second race. And let's not forget, $25,000 gets split up across of the field. $10,000 goes to our champion, and they all have their plans for what they want to do with it. Awards, 3 to talk about. The pole award, we'll see who's able to try and get the most pole positions this season. Green flag award, who can lead at the end of lap number 1, make the most up of the madness of start. And the CBR hard charger, who can be the biggest mover at the end of every race, and indeed at the end of every season. And so with all of that said, the talking is done. It's time to get to qualifying, where the drivers get timed for the very first time in 2023. Remember, 19 drivers return, Ewan, from 2022. They are known quantities. It's the 5 rookies that we're about to find out a lot about.
We certainly are. They're going to be found out very, very quickly as well if they're not up to speed in a new championship. I think it's the hardest on them, certainly, as you move forward here. I know everybody's getting used to some new, different things or whatever, but it's hard on the new guys to get up to speed while everybody else already is into the rhythm just that little bit. Yeah, do feel a bit bad for them, but they're here for a reason.
One thing to note as we head into this new season is that numbers are now assigned to the drivers depending on their performance in the last either World Championship season or in the qualifying campaign to get here. So effectively, Connor Barry's our number 1. Expect him to be near the top. Our lowest number driver is Justin Kay in the 29. Logically, you might think he'd be towards the back, but if you look up towards the top in qualifying right now, the 20s are up there. Dashalay's currently at provisional pole. Joel Blewett, one of our rookies, has blown him away, though. Less than 90 seconds to go. I think we're watching Crystal King, who's setting up for another qualifying lap.
Looks like it. Yeah, not very far off the pole either, by the way. Only 2 temps. We thought the All-Stars were close. This is really, really close. And the thing about the All-Stars qualifying was that we got a pole sitter very quickly, and it never changed from there. But Blewett is seemingly put all that aside. In the pros now, we're getting some new pole sitters, and it's exciting to see. Certainly, we are going to have some changes here in the final minute, you'd imagine.
Without a shadow of a doubt, on board with Crystal King, who is the first and still only iRacing female World Championship competitor. Put a lot of pressure on herself last year and gets, in my opinion, a do-over in 2023. Going to be interesting to see how she responds to that. Only 3 drivers got pole positions last year: Cam Peterson, Connor Barry, and Tommy Hallman. 2 of those drivers no longer in the series, and Connor Barry currently in 6th. I don't think we'll find any improvement with 20 seconds left to go. Joel Blewett, the rookie, may just have blown the field away, a 10th quicker in qualifying. Look at those margins behind.
Yeah, 10th is really big between 1 and 2, because the next 10th will send you down from 2nd to 9th. That's a really big margin. It says a lot about Blewett's time there. I said it was going to change a lot, but didn't realise Blewett was going to go quite so quickly. That is a very, very good time indeed as qualifying draws to a close.
The only other person in the series, other than Ewan O'Leary from the UK, has stayed up all night, was worried he'd be too nervous to wake up. The nerves have paid off. He's on pole position as we get ready to go racing. He got bored of going oval racing. Boy, is the Team Gold car going to be excited about bringing us to the start of a new season. Keaton Swain fought so valiantly for a championship. He'll be out on the outside of row number 2 with Josh Edmondson and then Nicholas Dashalay on that second row. Tyson Miller in 5th and Connor Barry, the defending champ, back in 6th spot. Trenton Briley, Crystal King, 7th and 8th, with a couple of drivers really improving in qualifying form compared to 2022, while Parker Retzlaff brings not just eNASCAR and NASCAR experience to the dirt, but potentially plenty of speed as well. Alex Bergeron has seen it all, done it all, won in multiple disciplines of iRacing World Championships. He's in 10th. Jacob Foss is one to watch back in 11th. So is Jarrett Liebert in 12th, who has been at the eNASCAR scene for so long behind the scenes. Justin Cabe, Brandon Proudfoot, Christopher Plumley, Connor Parisi, Keith Jeffrey, and then Josh Fox. That's your front 9 rows, and we keep going to Killian Dalomo, Tom Grady, Terry Miller, Nicholas Wellhouse, Quintin Dalomo, and then Cody Retzlaff, who lines up shotgun in 24th positions. Interestingly, Dalomo's not qualifying very well, not necessarily where we expected them to be in 2022. The order and the rank in this iRacing Off-Road Championship Series has, without a shadow of a doubt, been shaken up. Just a reminder, if you're joining us for the very first time, new memberships are 40% off. Head on to iRacing.com to get started on your journey to the virtual checkered flag. The rookie Blewett and the championship title battler in 2022, Keaton Swain, on the front row. You could not get 2 different stories to get us underway.
No, you certainly couldn't. And there's all sorts of different ones going down the field. It's going to be very, very good to see. And yeah, we're very much looking forward to getting a new season underway. So eagerly anticipated, so much change, so much to talk about, so much for these drivers to get used to, and all the preparation now comes down to this.
It's a moment almost, 12 years in the making for Joel Blewett. Started iRacing back when he was 6, did take a break for a while, rejoined in 2020, and now leads us to the green at the start of a new World Championship season. You've got to get your intentions laid down right now. Pace car will pull off away. Drivers will focus up towards the start of 2023's iRacing Off-Road Championship Series. We send more than 20,000 horsepower up the hill into Turn 1 at Wild West Motorsports Park and get the season underway. Connor Barry gets the chrome horn out, 3 wide as he works for 5th position down the hill, but Joel Blewett will lead from Keaton Swain down through Turn 2, crucially converting pole position to the lead of the race as Connor Barry almost goes up and over.
2 over, I think, in the background. Josh Fox may well have been one of them. Could be wrong. But up on the barriers in towards Turn 1 was another one of the trucks, by the way. It was a little bit chaotic off at the start, but at the front, it was a good one from Blewett. He got away well, and in the end, he's held on, but only just. He's being challenged at the end of the first lap.
3 cars stretch their legs at the front. Dashley is going to have to close that gap as we cross the line to complete lap 1 of 16. Remember, 4-wheel drive. These machines will dig into the dirt with all 4 corners and spool themselves out of more precarious situations. It was Parker Retzlaff as well as Trenton Briley that went up and over, I believe, down through Turn 2 on the previous lap. But once again, Keaton Swain at Turn 2 has a look to the inside, but not close enough.
No, not close enough, and maybe this is where what you were saying earlier about being difficult to actually pass on here could come into effect, because we're seeing already single file and Swain struggling at the moment. This is what happened down towards Turn 2 that sent, I believe, 2 cars over. I think they're both a little bit unlucky, to be honest, and one nearly finding itself out the boundaries of the circuit.
They were on the outside, which is always a precarious place to be, and so I think that was Briley and Parker Retzlaff to confirm. And well, Parker Retzlaff one that definitely, I think, plenty of people had their eyes on. Josh Edmondson one that we had our eyes on going into last year, but I think unlucky is the way to put it. Over the course of all 16 races, net loss of positions 25, despite qualifying traditionally up towards the front of the field and being a recipient of the top 8 invert after qualifying. He's a former competitor in motocross and supercross until injuries took him out of it, and he's brought that competitive spirit over here into these Pro 4 trucks, and he's been a staple of the scene for the last 3 years and counting, and now an opportunity to maybe potentially finally break the duck. No wins in 2022. Dashley leads from Barry, though, for 4th and 5th at the end of lap number 3.
Yeah, it's still single file, still where we were previously, sliding up in towards turn 1. The front three look like they've got a bit of an advantage over the rest. Dashley looking over his shoulder a little bit, I've got to say, of Conor Barry, who's just in behind at the moment, but even he can't challenge. Down towards turn 2, it's a little bit of a narrower line from Blewett there, who needs to make sure he doesn't start mirror driving a little bit here. Needs to make sure he's still on his line, still staying focused, doing what he needs to at this stage. I'm sure he will do, and that will make him difficult to pass.
Keaton Swain, second in the championship last year, still running second for the time being behind. Looks like they are getting a little bit more separated. Tyson Miller, Crystal King, and Conor Barry all starting to play a little bit more physical in the first half of this race. Top 8 invert for the second one, just to remind you. And so that's where Alex Bergeron and Jarrett Lieber find themselves fighting right now. In fact, side by side on that run up in towards turn number 1. And so that's an important position, given that winning this race is 50 points, and I think 8th position something like 32 or something.
Well, yeah, it'd be about 7 times 2, so whatever that is. But yeah, it's in terms of points less. So yeah, it's an important battle, and that's where you often see almost more action than for the race lead, because they know what's at stake. There's a possible race win in the future up there. While they know they're not going to win this race, it could be in the future. And 8th place is exactly what they're fighting for. The front 7 have got about 2.5, 3 seconds over the rest, which is fantastic news for us. But it's a real mess behind. Looking at Conor Parisi watching those two side by side to the final turn in front.
Now you've got Kay, Bergeron, Lieber. Bergeron's lucky, I think, to still be involved in this, because Lieber did get a little bit physical, leaning on multi-time winner in the series, because Bergeron won twice in 2022, despite missing 2 of our races. He's going to be trying to still hold on to that spot in the top 10. Again, I will remind everyone, points are allocated based on past performance through the previous championship season and the qualifying series. You see so many of those 20s up there is a really interesting thing that shows that this dirt refresh is catching these drivers a little bit unexpected as well. Parisi and Bergeron, 2 former World Championship rivals in Rallycross as well, swap around for 10th spot.
Yeah, even those drivers who have the real high numbers have got some real talent here. That was a huge bobble for Conor Parisi there, who's found himself really wide, and Bergeron goes through, and Brady might well do the same as well. It will all be side by side between everybody in towards turn 1. This is going to be exciting, and in they fly. Bergeron flies in, and too much. There's contact now. Everyone's involved, and wow, this is going to be quite a sight going down the hill.
Parisi somehow in 14th and almost off the track. Look how physical it is, and he's one of those drivers in virtual reality, yoinking on the handbrake as well to just pitch the car around and use 4-wheel drive to go in a straight line. Now, while they're doing this, all they do is realistically allow those up front to break away, and it's a 7-car train as Quinton Dalomo, hardest charger so far today, 10 places gained up to 13.
And this is exactly how you can do it. You can embark on these battles, and if you get there quickly, get through quickly, and get away as well, you can almost go through before everyone's realised quite what's happened. That seems to be Dalomo's strategy at the moment. He's into 12th place. Proudfoot and Parisi are going to go side by side to turn 1 of they? They will do, and he just about avoids it, just Dalomo. This will set up the battle for 13th with more than 4 involved.
Remember as well, these trucks can take a pounding. Dalomo's lost the right front fender, as has, I think it's Proudfoot behind, who tries to slip it up the inside of Conor Parisi, and will indeed be able to get it done initially, but Parisi mounts the wall, gets the chrome horn out, and forces the 11 wide. Retzlaff tries to mount the inside wall. They're all just trying to get involved in contact, it would seem. We're not even halfway through this one. Running away at the front, but it's still Joe Blewett that leads as Proudfoot goes around.
That was a move on the inside line in towards the final turn. He's paid the price for it, unfortunately, and it could well have scattered the group behind, by the way, because there were a fair number of cars fighting for positions further back. I think it's 16th, and that's really set the cat amongst the pigeons there, but I think they're all still there, and that's all fine. Oh, no, they're not fine. They're upside down in the background. Don't know if you saw that on the top of the hill at turn 1.
That was Jacob Rafoss, who has not seen this season start off well. He was very much coming into this one with some confidence, and I think rightly so, given how his transition from rallycross to trucks went in 2022. He's part of that Nitro Circus contingent, though, but it is still Joe Blewett that continues to lead in that Team Gold Esports machine. Behind him, he's got one of the factory SimSport contenders in Keaton Swain. course, Josh Edmondson representing Nitro Circus. Got 3 different teams up in the mix at the very front, and it is not the worst thing in the world at the end of the day, Ewan, to finish in 3rd position, because Inford in top 8 start a little bit better than if you win. Once again, Swain tries to look up the inside.
Absolutely, and I'm going to be interested to see how much people start to battle here for the lead, because we know how much a mistake can send you backwards. Swain will know about missing out on a championship, of course, from last season, possibly down to incidents as well, you could chalk it down to. Now he is going to go for the lead nevertheless. They never hold back here. He's gone for the bumper run at the final turn, and he's gone straight through.
Let's think back to 2022 race 1, or race 2 I should say, excuse me. Connor Barry behind Keaton Swain into the final corner at Crandon, and Josh Edmondson wanted to go even earlier, I think. He got trapped on the inside trying to get past Joel Blewett. He will hold on to a position inside of the top 5, but it was going too early. I was just about to say, Barry waited to the very final corner to get Keaton Swain out of the way. When you go early, Ewan, you risk not being able to run away and the favor being returned.
Absolutely. That wasn't the case for Edmondson, of course. He just got caught up in the battle in front of him, and that was unlucky in one sense. Got caught up on the barrier and has dropped back into a real fierce fight, for 3rd place. Swain, though, I don't think has gone too early. He seems to have the pace. Blewett almost overdriving at the moment in terms of trying to keep up. Has not been able to challenge through this first lap of Swain leading, and now the gap begins to grow. Blewett's going to have to close this one back in before a real fight in the final quarter of this race.
So it's going to be 4 laps to go at the line. Let's go back and look at this half move up the inside for Josh Edmondson. Yeah, he gets the short straw there, and then Connor Barry actually puts them back in the right direction. So I guess thanks, Connor.
Yeah, he'll be thanking at the end of the race, and maybe even protecting his 3rd place as a result as well. They're riding together at the moment and almost not willing to fight with one another. Maybe as a result of that, probably not. But a bizarre incident at turn number 1, it has to be said, and a shame for Edmondson as well. But he'll have a chance to come back at race 2, given where he is. His position won't actually change that much.
Yeah, no, exactly. He's basically going to line up in 5th position come the restart if things hold as they are. Down the hill once again. Blewett's still there, even if it looked like for a second you might have been crumbling under the pressure. I don't think you could say that. Half shows a move to the inside, but didn't get the truck rotate enough to really be able to force the issue. Take a look on board, and again, someone racing quite early in the mornings. Most of our drivers, yes, are based in the US, but we've got some people from the UK, we've got some people from Europe as well, Ewan, that are very much going to be fighting fatigue.
Yeah, they certainly are. And it comes down to a bit of preparation for this race as well in terms of that. In terms of being alert at this time, it can be difficult, but you've got to prepare for it. And hopefully Blewett has done that. He was saying earlier on that it is difficult to stay concentrated this late on. It is difficult to keep that over the course of this time of the day. But Blewett seems to be doing just fine with that at the moment. You can't exactly get a pole position in this championship with less than 100% concentration. He's absolutely on it here.
We are going to have some qualifying sessions later this season, which in effect are going to be one-shot qualifying, the likes of Crandon. So keep that in mind, but this was a multi-lap session where drivers could very much plan out their qualifying strategy. Barry holds 3rd, by the way, has not really felt any sort of pressure from Edmondson behind, and as we head on to the penultimate lap of the race, Blewett a little bit bouncy on the entry through the final corner, is going to drop about half a second back, and you got to think long game. And I don't like not hyping things up, Ewan. Championship runs come from consistency, as we saw from Barry and Swain last year. Only one non-top 10 finish between the two of them.
And that says it all about the seasons that they had, and the fact that those two in particular were really quite a long way ahead of the rest by the end, in all honesty. But it's not going to be that simple. Swain gets challenged now by Blewett into turn 2. It won't happen this time, but we're getting towards the end now. Last minute of this race, really, and Swain's going to have his hands full.
It's going to be on this last lap where Joe Blewett's going to try and compromise the run of Keaton Swain into the final corner. Outside line, you got to be careful not to be squeezed. both showing each other great respect, and it's going to be a drag race up the hill into turn number 1. Final lap of the race here is a kick off the 2023 Off-Road Championship Series.
Into turn 1 with Swain on the outside. He's going to do well to get round here, but he might be looking at turn 2 more so. He's actually done really well at the top of the hill there. He stayed alongside, as he not quite. Blewett is at the front. Now down towards turn 2. Swain will throw it to the inside.
He returns the favour, the send that he got from Conor Barry to start the campaign off. Joe Blewett sees what the World Championship ranks can truly be like. Keaton Swain has seen it all in this World Championship and will continue the streak, not just of finishing up inside of the top 10, but adding to the count of victories. Second, yes, in 2022, but not to be denied to open up the history books for 2023. It's Keaton Swain that crosses the line at Wild West Motorsports Park to grab the victory, the third of his World Championship career. Joe Blewett on debut will come across the line in second, while the champ comes up to third.
And you said earlier on that championships are built on consistency, but Joe Blewett there was saying a few things after being overtaken. I'm not sure all of them were particularly pleasing words, or the fact that he was very pleased at turn 2. Of course, it was just racing at the end of the day. Hard racing between the two and a fantastic fight as well. But these guys think about winning as well. We know it's about consistency, and they do too, but when a win's so close, Blewett, it will be disappointed to miss out on it like he just did.
And this is where he goes from probably being very happy that he got the nerves, the qualifying nerves settled, and was able to get pole, to being frustrated that he only gets second. Yes, Keaton Swain in that factory sim sport entry will grab the victory to open up the campaign. It's Joe Blewett that will be second, though, just 6 tenths back. Conor Barry, Josh Edmondson in the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team machines represent well. Hopefully somewhere Travis is watching and is approving of what went on there. Tyson Miller able to climb up through the field, and he's one that best finish last year was 11th. He's already got a top 5. Nicholas Dachelet, another one that we saw very much up and down, but he's up there in 6th. Crystal King gets her first top 10. That's the do-over she was hoping for. Jarrett Lieber 8th, another one of our rookies, along with Justin Kay, while Trenton Briley, I thought ended up flipping, but gets a top 10. Shows just how crazy this series can be. Alex Bergeron scored 11th with Quinton Dalomo, the hardest charger of the first race, up to 12th position. Conor Parisi, Tom Grady, and then Christopher Plumley through the top 15. Parker Retzlaff is scored in 16th spot, but that's going to be, I'm sure, at least somewhat of a relief after he was definitely involved down at turn number 2 on the opening lap. He scored in front of Kilian Dalomo for Altus, Nicholas Wellhouse for Team Rogue, as well as Cody Retzlaff for Team Rogue. Keith Jeffrey, 20th position, will be scored in front of the final 4 cars. It's going to be Terry Miller, Jacob Rafoss, who's going to be ultra frustrated by that, as will Brandon Proudfoot and Josh Fox through the 24 that saw the green. Fastest lap did go to Josh Edmondson with that 47.992. That is a new race lap record, if you're wondering, almost 2 full seconds quicker than what we have seen before. Drivers get a brief warm-up session before we go racing now. Ewan, what are your expectations as only seconds away from seeing them grid up again?
Well, we've seen throughout that opening race of the pro race here that it is very much possible to overtake for these guys, and you know they're very willing to do it as well. It's looking very good between in terms of overtaking for us. So I think those guys who were at the front last race may be able to do it again, but it's going to be difficult, of course. I mean, even the qualifying order got moved around a little bit in that opening race, so we'll see how it pans out over the course of race 2, but only expecting more of the same.
And remember, top 8 invert means that once again, we're about to see some new faces start at the very front of the field. Second race on the docket. It's Jarrett Liebert, a second rookie to bring us to the green of the season. Crystal King will line up alongside with Nicholas Dachelet, Tyson Miller, 3rd and 4th positions, Josh Edmondson, Conor Barry, 5th and 6th in those Nitro Circus sim racing cars. Joel Blewett and then Keaton Swain have battled once today, and I'm sure they will do it again. Have to work their way through the field. Behind them, Justin Kay and Trenton Briley just missing out on that invert, but at least inside of the top 10. Alex Bergeron, Quinton Dalomo share row number 6. Hopefully not unlucky 13th for Conor Parisi. Tom Grady in the Legion Speed Sport number 16 rolls to his outside. Christopher Plumley, Parker Retzlaff on row number 8. Kilian Dalomo's got some work to do from 17th. He's got Nicholas Wellhouse for company, though. Completing your top 20, it's going to be Cody Retzlaff, Keith Jeffrey, while Terry Miller, Jacob Rafoss, Brandon Proudfoot, and then Josh Fox bring up the rest of the 24 trucks that get ready to roll once again. They get stacked up behind that pace truck. Short blast down into that final corner before we release them to go for another 16 laps of racing. It was crazy in the mid-pack, Ewan. We saw a little bit of it. Jarrett Liebert's looking a little bit stressed at the front as he gets ready to bring us to the green. But the good thing is, the front's usually pretty undramatic at the start.
Well, the problem is there's a lot of people behind you who'd like to take your place, which I find the problem sometimes. And especially with turn one the way it is, it's a plunge uphill into a really slow corner. And I don't think that helps in terms of race leader nerves. And that's certainly going to mean that, we're going to see some action in towards turn one. I think these opening moments, as silly as it sounds, are going to be about staying on your all four wheels, to be honest, because I'll be amazed if we get through the opening lap without seeing someone on their roof, as we saw in the opening race and we saw in the second race of the All-Stars as well.
I always like to chat with some of these drivers before a World Championship season. Unfortunately, 2023 has gone so fast. By the time we got to the start of this one, I didn't get the chance to talk to them all. Did get the chance to chat with Jarrett Liebert. Fun little story there. Vicente Salas, those of you that watch the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series will know him. He's roommates with Parker Retzlaff, who's racing. Salas is also Jarrett's spotter. There's so much going on in terms of storylines here, but for the next 16 laps, we focus on the racing. Liebert and King get ready to once again get 20,000 horsepower fired up the hill into turn number one, racing for round two of the 2023 iRacing Off-Road Championship Series. Almost for a moment, we went three wide through the opening corner, but Crystal King, fortunately, does not get tagged by Nicholas Dachelet. It's behind that, it's chaos. Dalomo's going to slide his way into the wall. We were three wide for third for a second as well, but outside of Dalomo, for a moment we got through safely. There's the carnage.
Absolutely, someone on their side completely, and everybody involved as well. I think someone was actually heading towards missing the barrier entirely on the inside at turn two. Don't know what that was all about, but it was carnage back in the pack. The leaders have been able to get away well, and Lippert got off to a really good start, which meant that he was barely challenged in towards turn one. It stacked up everybody else, and they've all produced this. Someone else in the wall, I think that's Connor Parisi, who will spin in front of the field.
It was alongside with Christopher Plumley, who slips and slides his way but is able to hold on. There was a car that was doing a wheelie. How did we get through there? How did Quintin Dalomo flip by himself? He's going once again. More chaos in the background. Why is it always race two when the madness gets unleashed?
I think about half of them have been upside down by this point because it's been carnage on the opening lap. It's still going on as well. Josh Fox has come from the very back of the field to work his way through a third of it in one lap. Don't really know how he's done that, but he's navigated the chaos really well, and he's looking for 15th on the inside of Connor Parisi. He'll get it as well.
Welcome to off-road racing. It does not get much more exciting than this, and 16 laps, we're not here for very long. Here's what happened further back, by the way. This is Killian Dalomo, who was three wide for a moment, and as they work their way through the corner, he loses the rear end on the car. In front of him, Parisi is the one that touches the catch fencing. It's the 26 of Parker Retzlaff that gets the worst of it, but I can confirm that, as I think that's Cody Retzlaff who hits his cousin Parker, that Alex Bergeron was the car that had the major issues on lap number one, and Trenton Briley is 2 for 2 for flipping in 2023.
Oh, I thought it was all over, and then there was another smash on the front straight, and carnage just in the lower third of the field or so. Thankfully, most of them have survived it, but there are a few pit stoppers after that one, unfortunately, as you might expect. It was no better in towards turn two on the opening lap, by the way. There was all sorts going on, someone on their side, and just exactly what you expect to see from this kind of racing. Really, really enthralling. Action absolutely everywhere. Now we'll get into a recognisable race somewhat as the field stretches out.
And this is where, for Jarrett Liebert, all of those hours being part of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, maybe not as a driver, yes, but behind the scenes working with the top-level talent there, will give him good experience. And the thing that I found most interesting about him is that he's bringing that level of eNASCAR detail and analysis to off-road racing, and it's paying off quite well as Dachelet gets up the inside of his teammate Crystal King. Keaton Swain will follow as well. Margin opens up to 2 seconds between first and second with 4 laps in the books.
Crystal King doesn't really want any part of this at the moment. You just saw the way that she pulled wide through the final corner, almost letting the other two go, which might be the smart idea at this point. There's a long way to go right now, and it might not be the best idea to risk getting punted out the way by one of these two. Instead, watch them trip over themselves, because Swain is certainly going to want to fight his way back through. He's been really good at this in the reverse grid races, and he's already made good progress, although, as ever, Conor Barry's not too far behind him all over again.
Great view of this racing. All this does is really let Jarrett Liebert run away. Crystal King, I said, was getting a do-over in this World Championship, but has raced dirt bikes in motocross and off-road for about 20 years, so understands what competition is like, but also knows that motorsports is unfortunately sometimes dominated by men who don't know what to do with their ego, and she knows exactly what she has to do around some of these drivers if they get a little bit too touchy. It's Keaton Swain that's going to potentially get up to Nicholas Dachelet. Up the inside, though, Conor Barry disposes of Crystal King.
I was not expecting that, but Conor Barry's right here now as well, and that'll be worrying to Swain. Very nearly side-to-side contact between the two, with 3 wide almost towards turn 3 right now, but Swain has gotten through into second place. Conor Barry right round the outside in the black and red, trying to work his way onto the podium right now, and Dachelet's going to lose 2 places in 2 corners.
It's now 3.5 at the front. A rookie looks like they might walk away with a win, especially given how much they continue to check each other up. Keaton Swain will grab second. Barry will run away with him. Our title contenders in 2022 have found each other once again. Behind them, it might be Tyson Miller. That looks to the inside of Josh Edmondson, who in virtual reality will get the elbows out to get past Crystal King.
Well, I'm not sure it's all done yet, and Dachelet will certainly have felt the brunt of a pretty big hit towards turn 1. Edmondson will get hit now as well, big opposite lock, but it will be side by side, and it will be 5th place for Josh Edmondson by the looks of things. Good pass, but once again, as you say, it's looking like Barry versus Swain for, I don't want to say the championship, a bit early for that kind of stuff, but it's looking like they are the guys to beat again. You know, we saw it all season last time around, and it started right at the start. It's doing it once again.
And it's about that consistency that you were talking about earlier, and so that's where it's going to be key. I'll note for Josh Edmondson, he's one of the first people to use the new Pimax Crystal VR. He's quite happy about how that's working for him. Conor Barry up the inside of Keaton Swain, and the champ is up to second. Conor Barry comes into this round with relatively little practice compared to what he had underneath him in 2022. But racecraft does not disappear. Nicholas Dachelet might just disappear now, though.
That is such a shame. A small clip on the wall at turn 2. He goes over. He's back to pit lane as well. From possible podium to pit lane. Disaster for Dachelet there, and that's a real shame for him. Could have even gotten involved with these guys, but that won't be happening anymore. It has allowed them to get away. Barry and Swain will fight for 2nd and 3rd amongst themselves.
It was potentially a second podium of Dachelet's fledgling career. It is not to be today, but the pace is there. Factory SimSport, Legion Speed Sport have fast trucks that they have brought to 2023. Half distance in race number 2 of the evening. Still Liebert leads, 3.5 seconds clear of Conor Barry and Keaton Swain. Let's dial things back up in time and check out Dachelet just hooking himself a bit too much on that inside curve. And unfortunately, he did not land on all 4 tires.
Yeah, you're not getting flipped over from that point, are you? There's no one around you, and no one's going to hit you. So, unfortunately, he'll drop way down the order, outside the top 20. He's back down in 21st, by the way. So that's a real shame, and could have even challenged these guys. But we're left with Barry versus Swain again. We're just over the halfway point in this race now. Liebert looking very good at the front of the race, like he might well not be caught throughout this one, to be honest. But this is where our focus will be, because the 2 championship contenders from 2022 are at it again.
Down the hill, in through turn 2. Don't necessarily think Swain is going to force the issue. They closed 3/10 the last lap. I don't think that's quick enough necessarily to be within passing distance of Liebert come the end of this race. But with 6 laps to go next time by, if they can close half a second a lap, never say never, especially here in short course racing. We will have traffic that's lost the entirety of its front end to work its way past as well. I got a little bit confused by that, and then I realized that's a very damaged Pro 4.
Yeah, Liebert hasn't been off. You can rest your minds a little bit. Yeah, just a lap car, unfortunately, there. But Swain gets very close to Barry up into turn 1. The number 1 car goes a bit wide at turn 1, and now they'll be side by side on the plunge down the hill. But Swain only barely alongside.
I don't think it's going to cost them too much time either if they can sort it out in Route 2, and indeed they will. enough experience here to realize how to try and close up a little bit more. Further back, still Edmondson that leads that second pack with Crystal King. And then Tyson Miller in 6. There are 2 T Millers in the series, and so we'll get that fixed up on the left side if you're a little bit confused. It's Tyson in the 20, it's Terry in the 23. Keaton Swain getting very close through the final corner though to Connor Barry.
Very close again, but it's the same old story really. Not close enough to action a move, or maybe not a case of not being close enough, but just not willing to, not able to, whatever it is, he's not getting through at the moment. Still 3rd place, up towards turn 1. Barry with that line through turn 1 that makes it really hard to almost get alongside. Outside seems a very long way around, and the inside is just not happening because Barry is closing the door almost, but a bit of a bobble there. Small mistake through turn 2. Swain gets close again, but can't get through once again. It's a good way of keeping him behind, to be honest.
Edmondson's only 1.4 off the back. They do have to be a little bit careful given that he closed a couple of tenths last time by. Some fighting is going on further down through the field. It's not so much at the front. This dirt refreshers introduced this concept of tire wear to the trucks, and the thing is, if you're watching and thinking, oh, I might be able to make the move happen, iRacing official series match up with the World Championship, so you can drive this exact combination in official competition for the next couple of days through the official iRacing week, and you might be able to see if you do a better job than Keaton Swain of peeling Connor Barry out of 2nd spot.
I can guarantee you might probably know, to be honest, because it's difficult, hard work, certainly. Side by side, a bit further behind between Parisi and Grady now in towards turn 2. These are where the battles are really, in the mid-pack, where they're all fighting over positions. Parisi's been really in the mixer today, well, in race 2, certainly. Now he's side by side again. He'll hold the inside and hold 12th place, at least for now.
Yeah, Connor Parisi, another one that is a crossover from Rallycross, and another one that brings a virtual reality headset into the championship. The one thing he thought that was really interesting about his sim racing career is that back in 2020 when the world shut down, Travis Pastrana jumped into the sim, and so he worked with Connor to break down telemetry, was practicing a lot, and so Connor actually got the chance to go over to Pastrana land and rip some Can-Ams around, so that is a really cool thing, and great to see that those opportunities in the sim lead to tangible things out there with the connections that you can build. Behind, by the way, look at maybe the oldest ever iRacing World Championship competitor, as Terry Miller shows that age is but a number as he tries to fight with the youngest iRacing World Championship competitor at one point. Jacob Rafosco's up and over, and the 70-year-old Terry Miller says, no you don't, Jacob.
Yeah, an ironic twist of drivers there, but this is what the iRacing World Championship Series can produce, these kind of stories. But unfortunately, it's not a good story, and not one that Jacob Rafos would like to read again, because he's gone over at turn 2, and maybe some of his youth being shown there. Don't think so. I think he got unlucky, to be honest with you, based on what we saw. But he's dropped back a little bit now, and Terry Miller moves up to 15th at the very least. But these are where the battles are, in the midfield on the final couple of laps.
We've got 2 laps to go, and still not really seeing Barry and Swain put anything together. And Jarrett Lieber looks like he might very well take his very first World Championship victory here at the Wild West Motorsports Park. It will come down to the final 0.9 miles as they head off onto the final laps of the race. Parisi's watching inside as Tom Grady tries to get to the inside quarter panel.
Yeah, very nearly, couldn't quite. And overall, it's been a pretty good day for Joel Blewett there in 7th position. He's 2nd in the first race, 7th in the second. Means he's not gone anywhere in this second one, but he's done all right for himself, and that's all he can hope for. That was a bit of contact between a couple of the drivers up towards turn 1. I think they're all right in the end. And on this final lap, positions may not change inside the top 10, but towards the lower part of it and just out of it, they certainly might.
Yeah, it's down through turn 2 where you really have the best opportunity to make something happen. Parisi's going to try and look to the inside and try and switch it back. I think he's going to be able to get it done. Coming out of the final corner, though, to take victory number 1 in the iRacing World Championship career of Jarrett Lieber. He's been around racing for years, but finally that iRacing World Championship win as he brings Team Rogue to victory lane at Wild West Motorsports Park.
And
Not even a smile on his face initially because it's only week 1 of the championship, but there we go, the recognition of what this moment means.
I was going to say, look at the relief on his face more than anything. It's happiness now, but it's relief. You saw the nerves at the start. He knew what an opportunity this was, and he was nervous about it being over before it even really began. But he's converted that race start to a fantastic win, and yeah, fully deserved as well.
Always great to see new winners etched into the iRacing history books, and that's going to be a popular one as well, I'm sure, in some of the eNASCAR world. A driver that has been around the dead zone racing setup for so many years, and now not just building race-winning setups for Vicente Salas in the iRacing Rallycross World Championship, building a race-winning setup for himself over at Team Rogue. Let's grab a look at our race results after the second race of the evening comes to an end. 3 and a bit seconds. Once Jared Liebert got a whiff of clean air, he was not going to be denied. Connor Barry does climb his way back up to second, and what is a solid outing for the champ on his title defense debut. Keaton Swain, though, really the one to watch, given the victory and the third place to open up the campaign. It'll be Josh Edmondson fourth, Crystal King, first top 5 for her, and like I said, the do-over has come good. She will be delighted with that, as will the rest of Factory Simsport, with Tyson Miller getting up into the 6th position, and again, best finish of 11th for him, showing that progression and the change in the running order. Joe Blewett 7th after just missing out on his first victory. He's in front, though, of Quentin Dalomo, who leads Killian in 8th and 9th positions. Justin Kay, another one of our rookies, scored up there in the top 10. It's Nicholas Wellhouse 11th, Tom Grady, Connor Parisi, Josh Fox, and then Trenton Briley, who make up the top 15. Remember, Trenton Briley is 2 for 2, we think, for going up and over so far this season. Keith Jeffrey, Terry Miller, who at 71 years said that Jacob Erfoss, no, you're not going to get past me here today. Brandon Proudfoot, Nicholas Dachelet, first car 1 lap down in 20th position, before we get into a bit of the used car lot. Bergeron, Retzlaff, Plumley, and then Retzlaff as well. I'm sure lots of drivers hoping that week 2 goes a little bit better for them. So that's a look at the race results, and now hopefully we'll be able to grab a chat with a couple of our race winners. Why don't we start with race 2 winner, because I'm sure Jarrett Liebert has been waiting a while for this opportunity, and no longer. Jarrett Liebert, an iRacing World Championship winner. You said that you were confident that the setup was going to be fast, but you might not be the quickest machine out there from the team. How are you feeling now?
It feels really good, Arjuna. Like, race 1 was kind of rough. I was really tight, to be honest, and just kind of putting around in 8th with a lot of front end damage from lap 1's contact, and I don't think I've ever been just more, I wouldn't even say excited, just finally content. We finally won something big, like really big, and that just it was such a good group of people. It means a lot.
Let's talk about some of the things that you've done before, because I brought up a couple of those highlights. Dead Zone Racing setup builder in the Coke Series. You built Vicente Salas's winning setup in iRacing Rally Crossover at Charlotte. What goes into building a fast truck, though? Because we talked a little bit about this. In this dirt refresh, what have you guys found?
I think our Q pace was a little, I don't even know if we'd say off, but the track went a lot like tighter than I expected it to. So I didn't qualify as good as what I'd hope, but either way, it put us close enough to the front that I was able to make the most of it and get to 8th. But setup wise, I was really tight. But luckily, I think everybody's tight. This dirt refresh, overall, the truck's just really tight. And after race 1, I kind of said to myself, if I'm gonna like win this, I need to be looser. So I loosened it up quite a bit in between races and just took a gamble on hoping that I wasn't too tight or too loose, just one or the other, and just have no drive. But luckily, I got out to a big gap and kind of just managed my gap the entire race, and it felt good. I didn't have to push the hairpins too much, get close to the wall and risk flipping. I just kind of took it easy, and the gap stayed pretty close. Like, Connor didn't catch me a ton, so I think either way, we still had really good pace.
Well, really interesting thought that you changed your setup mid-event today. Can't wait to see what this means for the rest of the season, indeed for the rest of Team Rogue. Jarrett, we'll see you in 7 days' time over at Crandon.
Thank you. I have to thank Parker Retzlaff, Nicholas Wellhouse, Cody Retzlaff, Vicente Salas, Dennis Mickelson, my entire team at Dead Zone, Houston, Dustin, Graham, Dylan, Casey, everybody over there, Funkaway sponsor, and just everybody that helps support.
Maybe we can get now a diecast of the very first World Championship win for Jarrett Lieber to add to the collection behind. Let's chat with race 1 winner quickly, though, because Keaton Swain double podium to open up the 2023 account. And Keaton, I'm sure, given that Wild West can be treacherous at the best of times, you must be quite pleased with how things came out in this opening round.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't draw it up much than that to get 2 podiums to start out the season. That's good momentum for us at this track. I was going to be happy with just top 10 surviving the first 2 turns. So to get a win and back it up with a podium feels good to start the season that way.
And you talk about some of that chaos. You continue this remarkable streak of finishing inside of the top 10 in every single race that we've ever run in series history. What's some of the things that you do as a driver to try and stay out of trouble? Because I am a firm believer that drivers can play a part in staying out of trouble.
Yeah, just try not to put myself in a bad position. If I know who I'm driving around, so if I feel I need to go outside and let someone go by, and in order to not ruin my race, I got no problem doing that, because losing one position versus getting wrecked and ruining the whole race is a big points loss. So just being smart and not putting myself in dumb positions.
Well, Keaton, great start to the season. Plenty more racing to come. Best of luck as we head off to Crandon in 7 days' time.
Thank you. I just got to thank Sim Coaches. They came on this year as my title sponsor, so big thanks to them. Shindo Shine, everyone on the team, Factory Sim Sport, Appliance Parts Company, and everyone that helps put this World Championship Series on.
Don't forget, between Legion Speed Sport and Factory Sim Sport, 7 trucks for the contingent to work between. We'll chat with someone who was talking about qualifying nerves, settled them with a pole position to open up the season. Unfortunately, just missed out on that very first win. Joel Blewett, it's still an early morning for you, but I'm sure you're not sleeping anytime soon after that one.
Yeah, it was a crazy race. The nerves in qualifying I wasn't too nervous, but especially after I put that lap down, pole by a 10th, it felt really good going into the first race. Not too many mistakes either.
So you told me before the season started that you plan on not sleeping before any of the races because you're a little worried you'll sleep through any alarms. It's 3 in the morning for you. So how are you going to feel tomorrow morning when you're going to wake up, I'm sure, quite tired?
Man, I'm used to it. It happens all the time. Been putting in the late nights testing, making sure the car's good. And I think it was really good tonight. It performed really well. So yeah.
That's the thing. Ultimately, you got to practice at those times as well. Congratulations on a great start, Joel. We'll see you over at the Big House next.
See ya.
Crandon is indeed the Big House. And, well, based on what we saw today, if we're going to raise the stakes even more, Ewan O'Leary, if we're going to send them Land Rush style 10 wide to start off the races, man, you can't miss what we've got in store in 7 days' time.
Absolutely, you can't. It's set up beautifully for another round of this World Championship Series. Every driver will be glad to get this first round in the rearview mirror now, get it over and done with, get this season kicked off. They can learn a lot from what they've just had, but there's a lot more learning to do over the course of the next 7 or 8 weeks, and applying that as well is going to be very, very difficult. So we're looking forward to seeing how it will pan out, and of course we'll have another trip back to the Wild West before we end out this season as well.
Yeah, indeed. Crandon we will visit 3 times over the course of the season. And just a reminder of where the schedule is going to see us go. We are racing consecutively for the next 9 weeks. Yes, July the 4th is this weekend, but we're racing 7 days from today on July the 5th over at Crandon. Bark River up next, Wild Horse, before we get the All-Star round to interrupt the competition. We break out the Pro 2 trucks, take away front-wheel drive, still 700 horsepower, and the short configuration of Crandon. Looking forward to seeing what that's going to be all about. But we don't see the tracks in the same order, Ewan, when we head into the back half of the campaign.
No, we certainly don't, and I quite like it that way as well, to be honest. Glad that it's changed up a little bit throughout the month of August when we end out this championship. So it'll be exciting, but Crandon being the final round with the starters you've just mentioned, unlike anything I've ever seen before, it's a great way to do it.
Hopefully Joshua Lee will get his priorities together and will be alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, for that. But it's been a delight to have Ewan O'Leary alongside us for this opening round of 2023's Dirt festivities in short course racing, July the 5th, 8 p.m. Eastern, roughly 8:10, somewhere around there. Join us for what is going to be a very entertaining 4 races. We'll leave Wild West, though, with the first chapter in 2023 written into the books. On behalf of the entire team at iRacing, for our team at RaceSpot, Dane Baird and Hugo Luis producing all of the coverage, Ewan O'Leary joining myself, Arjuna Kankipati, to open up the Off-Road Championship Series. We'll see you at the big house, but right now it's Jarrett Liebert, it's Keaton Swain, victorious to open up 2023.